Welcome back to Pre-Consent, the history show where we examine life in the pre-contractual era. Today we're looking at one of the strangest features in the statist era, war. If ancient governments were supposed to protect people, why did they keep sending people into wars? The short answer is that states did not operate like normal protection firms. They were territorial monopolies. They marked their territories with what they called borders. And inside these borders, they claimed final authority over land, courts, currency, property, and people. So, when two states had a dispute, the conflict was not just between the rulers themselves. Entire populations were treated as resources of the state. The state could tax them, kidnap them and force them to fight, which was called being conscripted or drafted, inflate their money, restrict their movement, command their industries, and then tell them this was all being done for the nation. Students are usually surprised when they are told that if two rulers disagreed, other people had to fight for them. But that was one of the defining features of the pre-contractual era, men fighting for their rulers. In modern society, protection agencies, insurers, arbitrators, and legal firms have strong incentives to keep conflicts inside the legal sphere. Violence is expensive. It creates liability. It destroys property. It ruins reputations. It disrupts trade. It scares clients. It raises insurance costs. It attracts competitors. It creates claims from every direction. So, if a protection firm starts acting like a state, it does not somehow gain mystical legitimacy. It is recognized as a criminal organization, and everyone around it has an incentive to contain that early. Ordinary people do not want to pay for someone else's conquest. The earth was once covered in conquest societies. Today, only contract societies remain. Not because people became angels, people still respond to incentives, as they always have, but with the dissolution of the states, the incentives changed. In the old world, states cared deeply about where borders were drawn. Markets never did. A trader does not need to conquer a farm in another region in order to benefit from its wheat. He can buy the wheat. An investor does not need to annex a port to benefit from the trade through that port. A customer does not need people to be ruled over by the same institution in order to exchange with them. But states were different. States treated territory as jurisdiction. More land meant more taxpayers, more resources, more strategic depth, more prestige, and more people to command. And the more a state tried to manipulate economic outcomes, the more valuable conquest would appear. If resources could not be freely bought, sold, imported, or invested, rulers had stronger incentive to seize them politically. This is why we often find war and command economies appearing together in the historical record. They were not identical, but they were symptoms of the same deeper problem: political control replacing voluntary exchange. War was not just violence. It was violence organized through territorial monopoly and paid for by people who often had no personal dispute with the people they were told to fight. Students also ask, didn't people understand this at the time? Some did. Many writers, like Randolph Bourne, warned that war was the health of the state and that nationalism turned ordinary people into instruments of rulers. But many people had been taught to identify themselves with the state. So when the government declared a state of war, people would say, "We are at war," even when they had done no fighting. They would say, "We won," even when they had only paid their taxes. And they would refer to our enemies, even when they had never met the official enemies. The language of the statist era trained people to experience government action as collective identity. Today we find this difficult to understand because protection is contractual, law is polycentric, and disputes are priced, insured, arbitrated, and contained long before they become mass violence. But in the pre-contractual era, people lived under institutions that could socialize the cost of aggression while privatizing the glory of command. That was the old danger. Not merely that humans could be violent, humans had always been capable of violence and always will be. The danger was that violence could be centralized, ritualized, funded by taxation, wrapped in flags, and renamed public policy. Next time on Pre-Consent, we'll answer the question, where did governments come from?